Hello everyone, my name is Maria Nordqvist and I have worked with the Swedish Motorcyclist Association for 21 years. Thanks for inviting me to present our findings, which can be found in a paper written by me, Jesper Christensen and Dimitris Margaritis. SMC is an organization in Sweden founded in 1963. Today we have about 65,000 members and one of our most important issues is to deal with road safety. SMC is seen as the #1 player in the motorcycle safety work in Sweden, from riders, politicians, authorities, insurance companies, and other partners. Over the years, SMC have done several studies about safety. Some of them have been translated to English. Regardless of the study, the replies have been the same. Motorcyclists are safe road users and they also demand to be included as a natural part of Vision Zero. In all our studies, the participants have replied that they have a license, they use helmet, they use to 90% full protection from top to toe. The riders are totally against riding under the influence of drugs and alcohol. And also motorcyclists in Sweden and other countries, they buy safety more than other road users, for example, advanced training. And what might come as a surprise to you is that motorcyclists have a much better attitude to safety compared to motorists in all aspects except one, and that is speed. The safety work in Sweden and other countries is based on fatal accidents. SMC has been invited by the Swedish Transport Administration, Trafikverket, to look at the in-depth studies of fatal motorcycle accidents for many, many years. There we discovered that out of the accident, a lot of them wasn't about motorcyclists at all. Many of the fatalities had riders who didn't have a motorcycle license, and a lot of them included serious traffic crimes. This is the reason why SMC started to collect and analyze the data from 2011 based on if the rider had a valid driver's license or not. From 2013, we also collect and analyze these data on seriously injured motorcyclists, which are reported to the Swedish Transport Agency by the police. And from 2014, we have presented an annual report based on our findings in this. And it's always been in Swedish, and sometimes we have been able to translate it to English. This table is a summary of what we found. And this table is a summary of all the accidents with a fatal outcome between 2011 and 2018. And on the column to the left, it's the riders without a license. On the column to the right, you find the riders with a license. In SMC and among our members, we don't see the group without a license as motorcyclists, since they neither have a license or a legal bike. And there are huge differences between the group with and without a license, which we look into in detail in the coming slides. This table you will find in the paper that is connected in this conference. The data from the in-depth studies unfortunately shows that the share of the group without a license is rising at the same time as the number of fatal motorcycle accidents in Sweden is dropping. A sad fact is that 1/3 of all the fatal accidents in the 8 years between 2011 and 2018 didn't have a valid license to ride a motorcycle at all. And if we look at the closer up the group, we can see that they have a lower average age, 32.6 years, compared to the group with a license, which is 45.6. But we're not talking about youngsters and teenagers. This group consists of mature grown-ups, mostly. I also want to add the fact that almost every rider and passenger who was on a bike without a license were men. This is not a problem among female riders at all. Riding without a valid license is not the only traffic crime which is committed at these fatal accidents. 3 out of 4 in the group without a license were drunk, had used drugs, or both. This is a much higher share compared to the group with a license, where only 1 out of 10 had used drugs or alcohol. If we look into the promille level, I mean the level of intoxication among the fatal accident, it is very high, and it's a lot higher than the legal limit in Sweden. 1.698 promille means that you're having problem to stand, walk, talk, and see properly, and also a very low ability to react in the traffic. Over the years, we've found out that drugs has become much more common among the fatalities, and now the use of drug is more common than alcohol among those who die without a license, and it's also increasing among those who have a motorcycle license. Over the years, we've tried to find out the level of drug use, and in the last years, this is stated in the autopsy reports, which says that level of different drugs in the bodies shows that the person has had abused drugs over a period. It's also mentioned other kind of medication which is illegal to use when you ride or drive a motor vehicle. It's been a law to use a helmet in Sweden while riding a motorcycle since 1975. But in the group without a license, 1 out of 4 didn't wear one or didn't use it properly. Unfortunately, we can't see and find out what other safety equipment was used in the accident. The share of people owning a motorcycle among the group of non-license holders has increased, but at the same time, even if the person was the owner of the bike, the motorcycles weren't allowed to use on the roads in most cases. And we looked specifically on the year 2007, where 13 persons died who didn't have a motorcycle license. 9 of them were owners, and out of these 9, only 1 used a motorcycle that was legal to use. And this figure shows what I talked about in the last slide. Almost 8 out of 10 in the group of riders without a license were riding a motorcycle that wasn't legal to use. And most of the illegal bikes were 53%, were taken out of traffic by the owner, who didn't then have to pay the tax and pay insurance. Some of them did this actually the day after they bought the motorcycle. The motorcycles who weren't registered, 13%, were mainly motocross, who are not allowed to use on public roads. 11% of the illegal bikes used by riders who didn't have a license were stolen. So in total, almost 8 out of 10 were not legal to use. Then we wondered, is this only a problem among the fatalities, or is it even bigger? And unfortunately it is. So in 2013, we started to collect data among seriously injured riders and passengers who had been reported by the police to the Swedish Transport Agency. And we also compared these accidents with owner and license registered in the same authority. And we found out that it shows that between 23 and 34% of the seriously injured motorcyclists didn't have a valid license. 1/3 didn't own the bike they were riding, and 21% were riding an illegal motorcycle. And it's the same here. The share among those who didn't have a license is much higher compared to those who had one, and that is the number within the parentheses. The frightening fact is that only 35% of the riders without a license were riding an insured motorcycle, which is also illegal since the law in Sweden demands an insurance on every motorcycle, on motorcycle and car and other vehicles used on the roads. And the figure among those who had a license is 89%. So why do SMC collect these data, and what do we want to do with it? Well, we want to show that traditional road safety measures doesn't work in this group. And this group is growing. The two existing measures in Sweden, to install medium barriers and to lower speed limits, will not help. It is also obvious that the complicated and expensive driver's license scheme isn't the solution. Instead, SMC wants everyone involved in road safety work to look behind the data behind fatalities and seriously injured, and to start working with that in focus and with the facts that we find out. We need to make everyone aware of these figures. These figures are 1/3 of all the fatalities and seriously injured in Sweden. And these people were not even allowed to use the motorcycle. So our conclusion, SMC is asking for a common position in Sweden that states that education and a valid license for a motor vehicle is important. In order to do this, we need the facts and statistics for all road users. When we have these figures and statistics, we can make the right decisions for road safety measures. We also have to look at what group and which persons that should be in focus for the police, because the police have limited resources. And in SMC, we believe that if every stakeholder agrees that this is a problem and everyone starts using their systems that are already in place, and we work together, then we can reduce these sad figures. And we also know that motorcyclists aren't different compared to other road users. We also want safety. We want to come home to the one we love. So I suggest that everyone starts to cooperate with us to reach the Vision Zero goals. That's all from me and SMC today. Please contact me if you have questions. And thank you very much.